You're watching Plain Speak with me, Poonam Burde, here on CNN News 18, and we're coming to you live from the CNN News 18 Primetime Studio, presented by Green Lamb Laminates. The Assam government has decided to impose restriction on who gets an Aadhaar card from here on. The precondition makes it mandatory for applicants to furnish their NRC application number that was provided to them in 2015 to apply for a new Aadhaar card. This is going to be now a standard operating procedure in the state from here on. That's what the government has said. The General Administration Department of the Assam government would be the nodal agency for implementing this decision to link Aadhaar cards with their NRC applications in the state. Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma said that if there was no application for the NRC, then the Aadhaar request would be immediately rejected and a report would be submitted to the central government. They say this is a bid to strengthen Aadhaar norms to arrest the influx of illegals on the border state. This new order, though, has triggered a massive political face-off because BJP's rivals are questioning the rationale behind it, even pointing to the limbo that the NRC exercise has been since 2019. The biggest reason for the state government to bring in this regulation was to rein in irregularities in the number of Aadhaar applications that were received, the Aadhaar cards that were being given out. There were 4 districts that were of particular concern, said the Chief Minister in Assam. Let's begin with Barpeta, where the state government said that 103.74% Aadhaar cards compared to the total population, which means 3.7% were unaccounted for. Where are these extra Aadhaar cards going? The same was the case for another district in Dhubri, where the figure stood at 103.48. In another 2 districts, that figure was over 100%, which means the population is at 100%. But in Morigaon, there were at least 1.76% more Aadhaar cards that were being given out. And in Nagaon, there were about a percentage more of Aadhaar cards that were given out. So where are these people getting these Aadhaar cards from? That's a concern that the state government was probing, which is why they decided to bring in this regulation. They say that they've put enough thought into this decision. They say that there is a surge of Bangladeshi refugees. The crisis continues to boil over in our neighborhood. In fact, Himanta Biswa Sarma had said that scores of infiltrators have been nabbed by Assam police, Tripura police and the BSF in just the last 2 months. That is why infiltration from Bangladesh is a big concern, and this decision will try and mitigate that. The state has also said that there is a concern that foreign individuals have procured these Aadhaar cards and there is a need to weed them out. Linking NRC to Aadhaar, the state government says, will invalidate those who've procured these Aadhaar cards illegally. What it will also do is keep a check on foreigners that may be staying illegally in the state. Remember, the central government, the UIDAI has often on record gone on to say that foreign individuals who do have an Aadhaar card, if they are illegally staying, which means they're past their visa here in India, then their Aadhaar cards would be looked at. Ensure benefits of government schemes are not misused. That's another concern that the state government seems to have raised. But the political war of words continues. The TMC and the Congress have raised hackles over this illegal influx of immigrants in Assam and what the government is doing about it. This decision to link NRC and Aadhaar is not kosher, says the opposition. So is this really a necessity or is this merely alarmist? That's what we ask on Plain Speak tonight.
असम में किसी को आधार कार्ड चाहिए तो उनका एनआरसी में नाम जरूरत होगा। अगर एनआरसी में नाम नहीं है तो आधार नहीं मिलेगा।
$1,600 crores was spent on completing NRC. But till today, the NRC has not been officially notified by the Registrar General of India, and it is the CM of Assam who has said that I do not accept this NRC. So is the NRC valid? Give us a statement of that on that, Chief Minister.
Let's open this up. Jayanta Kumar Goswami, spokesperson of Assam BJP, Professor Manojit Mandal, political analyst who backs the TMC, Ashwini Dubey, advocate Supreme Court, with us on this broadcast, R.K. Bhargav, former IG of the BSF, with us as well. Before we get into the politics of it, I want to get in R.K. Bhargav. R.K. Bhargav, the threat for any border state as far as influx of illegals is concerned is very real. In Assam, the Chief Minister has been raising these concerns for the last few years, especially in the last few months after we saw what's happening in Bangladesh. This move by the state government to link NRC to getting Aadhaar cards, do you think that's a way to try and mitigate this crisis?
Just one thing, I will not go into the legality of NRC and Aadhaar card, whether it is applicable or not, that is a different issue. I will not discuss on that. But yes, I will comment on what could happen if sufficient actions are not taken to stop this immigration. And one of the method could be the NRC to stop the illegal immigrations. In Assam, right from the 1971, maybe prior to that also, the Bangladeshis, they started infiltration, coming into the Assam and occupying the char lands, small char land, then bigger char land, then they increased their number from 100 to 1000 and then thereafter to 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, they established a village, illegal village where no government authority, no bureaucrat could dare to get in, to make any sort of census, to make any sort of counting or anything. And these illegal immigrants, they slowly started occupying the land of the Assamese. And I tell you, Assamese people, they are very docile people. I visited them. They are very docile people. They just used to feel कि ओहो जो भी चल रहा है चलने दो लाहे 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 लाहे. They never bothered. Somebody is occupying their land. Somebody is pushing away from their jobs. They realized it much later, and by that time the immigration had reached such a magnitude that what Mr. Sarma is talking today should have been talked about a decade ago. Now the situation is such that number of the districts in Assam, they are now majority, they are habited majoritarily by Bangladeshi Muslims and Hindus also. Before 71 there was a lot of influx of the Hindus and the Muslims also, but these Hindus and Muslims, they stayed together because they were all speaking Bangla. The Assamese and Bangla, they are different languages. So with the language, the unifying factor being the language, Hindus and Muslims, they stayed together. But as the number of Muslims increased, there was also a division between the Hindu and Muslims. And now the situation is such that Bangladeshi Muslims on one side and Assamese and Bangladeshi Hindus on one side. So now the situation in Assam is very complex, and unless suitable steps are not taken, perhaps it is going to worsen further.
So the situation is definitely alarming, but Jayanta Goswami, is this linkage of NRC and Aadhaar the solution? Many would say that this NRC that you're speaking of, what has happened in the last 5 years, that final list that was submitted in 2019, we still don't know what has happened to that. There were many people that were left out of it. Many cried foul of how even after about 1.9 million people being left out, there were still a lot of foreigners that made to that list.
Yes, NRC, regarding NRC, the state government have a stand because we need a correct NRC. Although the NRC was prepared under the supervision of the Honorable Supreme Court, but at the time of the Congress government, when the NRC's application were submitted and it was received by the NRC authority, at that time, what happened? The government, particularly the Congress government, during their tenure, some fake documents were issued to the illegal immigrants to submit their NRC before the NRC authority. And our government stand is that to review those particular areas like Dhuburi, Borpeta, 12 districts. These districts, the immigrants are now majority. Therefore, the government clear stand is that we need a correct NRC and we need the verification of those areas where suspected immigrants are successfully entered their name in the NRC. Therefore, the state government yesterday's cabinet took this decision that even if a person's name is in the NRC, when he applied for Aadhaar, an inquiry will conducted by the circle officer after after valid inquiry. If he found that he is the actually he is the Indian origin or
But Mr.
Indian citizen,
Goswami,
then
isn't
he
that
will get the
logic and that argument
Aadhaar.
flawed in its inception? You say that there was an issue when it was conducted back then, and there were certain documents that seems to have made its way because the Congress was in power. There was a certain sort of conspiracy, like you say, that was going on under the Grand Old Party. But the NRC application number that you want is back from 2015.
No, see.
So if there was some
No, no.
conspiracy as far as documents fakery was concerned, then that would still continue, isn't it?
The yesterday's decision is something different. Yesterday's decision is that if any person is not applied for NRC, he cannot apply for Aadhaar. And those persons who applied in NRC and his name is in the NRC, but also a verification is necessary for him also, and therefore the verification point, it was adopted by the state government. After verification, any NRC will be any Aadhaar will be issued, and therefore the point of verification was indicated in the yesterday's cabinet decision. Therefore,
Sure,
although
verification needs to be done, but why link whether you were a part of NRC, whether you applied as part of NRC in 2015, were in the list of 2019 or not, be any reason to either get accepted or be rejected, Manojit Mandal, for an Aadhaar card?
No, I think the whole issue is completely botched up, by the BJP government in Assam since 2018 or 2019 itself. They could not complete this humongous exercise, and rather the valid citizens were still struggling, languishing in some of the detention camps. As you rightly pointed out, 1.9 billions of them. And most of them were actually Hindus. And many people who migrated from Bihar as laborers in the tea gardens, even they were, chucked out of the valid list of NRC. So based on a completely incomplete and illegal exercise, as it were, on what ground now they are asking that the Aadhaar will be given only if you have applied for NRC? You have not completed that exercise. I mean, do you have the final list of who are the valid citizens of this country are living in Assam? The answer is clear no. For the last 4 or 5 years, they have not done anything. Rather, I've been saying this for a very long period of time. Rather, when they found that many of the Hindus, which actually their principal, vote banks, they were left out. They brought this bill of, CAA just from the back door. Even if they are from Bangladesh, they just wanted to give them citizenship, through back door, and that's why this, whole exercise of CAA was proposed, and it was done at the behest of Mr. Himanta Biswa Sarma. He had that very famous meeting in 2019 after Mr. Amit Shah became the Home Minister. Everyone knows, and thereafter CAA was proposed in the Parliament. So it was very clear on their part that the whole exercise of NRC was a political one. Nonetheless, it was a flawed and incomplete one. And on the basis of that, you cannot deprive the real citizens of this country. Yes, because they have not applied for NRC, which again I repeat, an incomplete task, you cannot deprive them of their Aadhaar cards and other rights. This is absolutely unacceptable, and the government must step in. The government of India and in fact the Supreme Court must step in, because NRC was being done under the supervision of Supreme Court. And I don't know what has happened in the last
2019 is when that final list, Mr. Goswami, was apparently made. It's still not public. We had the Supreme Court just recently uphold the Section 6A as far as the citizenship is concerned, as far as the Assam Accord is concerned.
No,
Why is that list still secret?
No, see, Mr. Biswas is factually incorrect, because he stated that
That was Manojit Mandal who was speaking before you.
Mr. Mandal is factually incorrect because the no person from the garden within no tree tribes are deprived from entering their name in the NRC. All it is basically our tea gardens are basically situated in the Upper Assam, and in the from the Upper Assam there is no such type of allegation for missing their name in the NRC. Therefore, he is factually very much incorrect.
I'll
At the
debate.
same
I'll
time,
debate.
see, just wait. No. Aadhaar card. All the people from the T tribes area of Upper Assam are getting their Aadhaar cards. You are factually very much incorrect. But at the same time, what happened? Uh, we actually our demand is that to review the NRC list of those peoples whose name was entered
But how are
in
you
the
going to review that list when that list in itself is
Can I
not
debate, sir?
public?
no,
We
that
don't know
that
what
was
that list
published.
has.
That was the list was published, but it was not notified.
5
Notification
years.
was no after
5 years
after
ago, it was finalized, but
no,
it's still not been notified.
After final verdict of the Honorable Supreme Court, it will be notified by the Registrar General. But before that, the state government stand is that to review review those names those name of the immigrants.
So if
those
you're
are
waiting
successful.
for the Supreme Court to hear the case, finally come out and say what they have to say, and the list to eventually be
File
made
the
public,
review petition.
and that
We
exercise
file the
will
review
then
petition.
happen when that happens of this review. Why are we even talking about it now? But Manojit Mandal, quick rebuttal because you have your hand up before I get in
First
Ashwini
of
Dubey
all,
as well.
there are innumerable tea gardens even in the Barak Valley, my dear friend. That's not exactly Upper
No. You are factually incorrect.
Hang on. Let me
Okay,
speak
let
now.
him, Mr. Goswami, Mr. Goswami, let him finish, please.
Tea gardens belongs to the Upper Assam.
Mr. Goswami, you made your point. Please let
is
him
not the
finish.
point.
I'll come back to you for your rebuttal. Let him finish his point, please.
I
Manojit
lived in
Mandal.
Assam for a long period of time. My simple point was, why don't you spell out of these 12 lakh Hindus whose names are not there in your list of NRC, where do they come from? Why don't you spell it out? We know that there are out of this 1.9 million, 12 lakhs are Hindus. Where do they come from? Please spell that out. And you took
But see,
5-6 years to spell that out.
all the
Where do they come
documents
from?
were all the documents were
Most of them are Indian.
were
Most of them are Indian.
issued by the Congress
And
government.
whereas actually the
Congress
illegal
government is liable
immigrants,
for
they have made into the
liable
list.
for an incorrect NRC.
No,
You
tell
should
me,
remember
why the population in the border districts are getting into NRC? Mostly in the border
No,
districts
see,
are getting into NRC
at
because
that
they have
time,
bribed these
was in
NRC
power,
people who are
was in
living
power
in
in
the
Assam,
and they have made into the list. While the
they
genuine
issued
citizens are
some
out of the
fake
list.
document
What
to
are you
those
talking about?
immigrants,
And if
and
they are
therefore,
not, then please
due
bring
to
out the list.
receive of
Please
that
bring
fake
out the
document
list
from
as
the
soon as
government
possible.
offices, the immigrants are successfully entered their name in the NRC.
Why don't you put this list in the Supreme Court and bring
present
it out
government,
that who are these
our
12
government,
lakh Hindus who
Dr.
are out
Himanta
of the
Biswa
NRC?
Sarma
First draft of
demand for
NRC.
review of that area. This is the facts.
You are
Okay,
talking
Mr.
about
Goswami.
an
Okay, Mr.
absurd
Goswami,
issue.
tell me this.
I am
Tell me
simply
this.
asking you,
Okay.
please bring out the list of the names.
Sure.
Of
A,
the
that
Hindus
list needs to be
who
out
are
if
left
you
out
want
of
to
the NRC.
review. Secondly, Mr. Goswami, when the Section 6A was upheld by the Supreme Court recently, they also did direct the state government to identify and take appropriate action against illegals. Yes?
Yes.
Has anything
Yes.
been done after that?
They have made into the list. I tell you, they have
Has
made into the
anything
list.
been done after that?
Border districts.
Because you
people have
keep
been
okay.
made into
Manojit Mandal, just a second. Mr. Goswami, you said you're waiting for the Supreme Court to come out and tell you what to do, the Registrar General to come out and notify the list, and then you'll find out. But here the Supreme Court has given you a free hand to identify and act against these illegals while upholding Section 6A. What has the state government done?
The decision, regarding the decision of 6A, Article 6A, the Supreme Court directed the state government to identify the illegal immigrants. Those were declared. But now the position is that those are successfully.
And how many of them have been identified? How many of them have you petitioned with the central government to be deported?
No. Now the question is that those are successfully entered their name in the NRC due to the fake documents which is issued by the.
Sure,
Congress
but
government.
again,
We
unless
have
that
to
list
find
is
out
out
those
and unless that
person
list
also.
is public, you wouldn't know who these people are who've made it to that
No, no,
NRC list,
already-
apparently
already
illegally.
the-
But what
the
about those
thing-
who are illegally there?
Yes.
How have you
yes,
identified them?
no, no,
Have
no,
you
very
made
much so.
have you made a list of X
They've
number of
bribed
people,
into the
given
list.
it to the central government, which
definitely,
also is a
definitely.
BJP government, and asked them to be
government will
deported?
do. No, no, the government will do. The pushback policy is there. The government will do. The government will do. The government
They
will
bribed to make into the
identify
list.
those
They
people.
bribed to make into the
But
list.
yesterday's decision is that to
Okay, so let's
protect
stick.
from
Sure.
those,
So let's stick
those
about
new
yesterday's
entrants.
decision itself. Ashwini Dubey, is this decision to link NRC to getting a new Aadhaar card, is that legally tenable? Can this be challenged in a court of law? And if it is, then will it have any legal standing for the state government to defend it?
So far as it is with respect to the demographic changes and resource allocation, then I must say the state government is right. But if making an Aadhaar of somebody concerned as per the guidelines, one has stayed in the country for more than 180 days, is entitled to get the Aadhaar. If you remember the 6A Citizenship Act, which was upheld by the Honorable Supreme Court, the validity, what the Constitution Bench judgment says, that the Indian citizens include those who came to India before July the 1948, and then also the Citizenship Act was amended with the addition of Section 6A, which is applicable exclusively to Assam. And if it is so, you remember the Honorable Supreme Court's 4-1 majority judgment. Supreme Court says that yes, to have a look with respect to identify those foreigners, illegal immigrants, and the immigrants of this country, there has to be an exercise. Now, if you see, there is existing statutory regime which says that there are 3 classes of persons residing in India: citizens, illegal immigrants, and foreigners on valid visas. How will you identify between the illegal immigrants who are using the resources? That's the question, Poonam. And if it is so, then the state government is very much right in bringing an ordinance or bringing a notification that you have to come with the NRC, then only your name will be entered into it. So far as the Supreme Court judgment, if you see, the Supreme Court judgment and Assam agitation, which was driven by the concerns that unchecked migration from Bangladesh was threatening Assam's identity, undermining employment opportunities, and placing a heavy demographic burden on the state's indigenous communities. And that is why the Assam Accord was created within 3 categories of migrants. One, those who entered Assam before January 1660 and then who would be deemed Indian citizens. 2, those who arrived between January 1, 1966 and March 24, 1971, the end of Bangladesh Liberation War, and those who could claim citizenship but won't be allowed to vote, and those arriving after March 25. Now, we have to segregate and look into it. If this exercise or the notification which has been passed by the state government is with respect to identify those, that is, and bringing the NRC in the middle, then that is right. But so far as straight away denying them to have Aadhaar card, that is out of the legislative domain. Over to you.
So if this is challenged in court, there is a very high chance the state government would not be able to defend it. That's the gist of what you're saying, if I got that correct, Ashwini Dubey? That their rationale may be, their heart may be in the right place, so to say, but the way they've gone about doing it, that may not stand legal scrutiny.
Only having Aadhaar card, of course, will not be having a legal scrutiny. But if they say that they are underlying this exercise with respect to the judgment, and now let me tell you, Mr. Vishwas, the Supreme Court judgment is final. It is not the state government, the central government, that it is to be notified with the executive. Registrar General has to write it. Supreme Court has passed the judgment that 6A applicable exclusively to Assam was very right, and that was with respect to maintain this
and the Registrar General hasn't notified the final list of the NRC that's been in limbo for the last 5 years as well. So what happens to that? And that it's not just about a mammoth exercise being conducted once again, it's also the cost. About 1,600 crores was spent on that kind of exercise. Do we have the kind of resources to do that all over again? That's a question that needs to be answered. What happens to the data that has already been collected? Is this merely a rhetoric that's being whipped up, or can the state government actually back it with facts? And if there is a legal challenge to it, can they defend it effectively? That's what the state government needs to look into. Unfortunately, that's all the time I have here on this edition of Plain Speak. I thank you all, gentlemen, for joining us here and sharing your perspective.